Christian Leuprecht is joining me right now. He's professor at the Royal Military College of Canada and Queen's University. Christian, thanks a lot for your time. I know you were listening in there to John Kirby and his update that he was giving to reporters there. I first want to get your sense here about what they've gathered regarding this Chinese balloon. Of course, now studying it and getting more information there, but the significance there, saying it doesn't pose a huge threat here, but it could potentially.
So, North American security and continental defense for decades has been premised on having the answers to those questions.
Mm-hmm.
The way we've kept the continent safe is precisely by knowing what capabilities our adversaries possess and the intent behind those capabilities. And in the case of these objects, it appears that not only do we not quite understand the capabilities, that is to say, we weren't initially able to detect these, we had difficulty identifying them, and then we appear to have used some very high value assets to intercept them. But we also seem to have difficulties just understanding what the intent behind these objects is. And so that should be disconcerting because the malicious actors that sent these clearly intends to demonstrate that North American sovereignty in aerospace is vulnerable.
And we know, of course, that in collaboration with Canada, we heard from the Prime Minister as well, saying that, the purpose of NORAD, Canada and the United States working together on this, determining to ensure that, both Americans and Canadians are safe. What's interesting as well right now is when they say sort of what's the next steps? Now, what are we doing here? Why haven't we been able to detect these items earlier, these objects earlier, I should say? And they said, well, we are doing exactly that. And the Prime Minister said this as well, saying when he was asked about this in terms of how many we're seeing in such a short period of time, he didn't use the word concern, but he said it was a cause for interest and close attention, a diplomatic joint investigation, as we heard from John Kirby as well, saying they'll be working with their partners and allies to get more information from them in terms of what their experience has. So on the international front on this, Christian, talk to me a bit more about that as they now, as you say, try to determine the intent here.
So there's two things going on. One is that an adversary is clearly probing our air defenses. These balloons allow them to probe what NORAD is able to detect and how and when NORAD is going to respond to such incidents. So there's a lot you can learn about how we keep the continent safe, even if there's no particular espionage payload. The espionage payload is there for adversaries to be able to calibrate their weaponry, in particular their missiles, to ensure that they can penetrate North American airspace and also to take out the command and control infrastructure that keeps our airspace safe. And that should be a serious concern and calls for urgent renewal on both NORAD modernization and on broader whole of government and whole of society approaches to counter a Chinese hybrid and gray zone activity, because these balloons demonstrate you don't need military assets per se in order to generate significant concern about North American security vulnerabilities.
Well, we know with regards to those other two objects, they're working to collect any debris from there. And we heard from the Prime Minister saying then, of course, Canadian Armed Forces and the RCMP are involved in that. And then researching and I guess studying what these items are is going to be, of course, top of mind. Christian, thanks so much for sticking around and giving us your best analysis on this. Christian Leuprecht is a professor at the Royal Military College of Canada and Queen's University. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Angie.